A prison is supposed to take power away. When someone goes to prison, they lose freedom. They lose control. They are watched. They are locked in. That is how it is supposed to work. But sometimes, it does not. In the country of Colombia, in South America, there was once a man who was so powerful that even prison could not stop him. His name was Pablo Escobar. Before he ever stepped inside a prison, Escobar was already one of the richest and most feared criminals in the world. He was the leader of a huge drug group called the Medellin Cartel. This group sold cocaine to many countries. They made so much money that people said Escobar earned millions of dollars every single day. He had big houses. He had cars. He had bodyguards. Some people in poor areas even liked him because he gave them money and built homes for them. But other people were very afraid. If someone stood in his way, police officers, judges, politicians, or reporters, they could be threatened or attacked. Colombia went through many sad and violent years because of the drug war. The government wanted to stop him. The United States wanted him sent there to face trial. That is called extradition. Escobar was terrified of being sent to a U.S. prison. There, he would have no power, no friends, and no control. So, he made a deal. In 1991, Escobar agreed to give himself up to Colombian police, but he had a very strange condition. He said he would go to prison only if he could build the prison himself. This sounds unbelievable, but it is true. The Colombian government agreed because they were desperate. They hoped that if Escobar was locked up, the violence in the country would slow down. The prison was called La Catedral, which means the cathedral, but La Catedral did not look like a normal prison. It was built on a hill with a beautiful view of the city of Medellin. The weather was cool. The area was peaceful. Instead of cold metal bars and tiny cells, there were big rooms and open spaces. Escobar helped design it. He helped choose the guards. Many of the guards were not tough officers. Some were men who respected him, and others were too afraid to challenge him. Inside La Catedral, Escobar had things normal prisoners could never have. There was a soccer field where he played games with friends. There was a bar where people talked and relaxed. There were comfortable beds and furniture. Visitors could come and go with very little checking. Yes, he was inside a prison, but it did not feel like punishment. It felt like a private club on top of a mountain. The government told the world they had locked up the most dangerous criminal in Colombia, but they did not understand something very important. Escobar's power did not come from walking the streets. His power came from people. For years, he had built a huge network. Drivers, pilots, guards, money counters, and leaders in other countries all worked for him. They did not stop working just because he moved into La Catedral. From inside the prison, Escobar kept giving orders. Cars drove up the hill. Important men came to visit him. They talked about money, problems, plans, and drug shipments. Messages went out. Orders came in. La Catedral was not really a prison. It was an office. The cocaine business did not stop. Drugs still moved across borders. Money still flowed into secret accounts. The cartel kept working like a machine. Escobar was safer than before. He did not have to run from the police. He did not have to hide. The government itself was protecting him in a prison he designed. But Escobar also used fear to stay in control. Some members of his cartel started to argue. They thought he was keeping too much money. Others thought he was becoming weak by living inside a prison. Escobar did not forgive betrayal. In 1992, 2 men from his organization were brought into La Catedral. They were accused of stealing money and lying. They were killed inside the prison. This was a turning point. The Colombian government finally understood the truth. When the government decided it was time to move Pablo Escobar, they believed they were finally taking control back. For a while, they had allowed him to live in La Catedral, the special prison he designed on a hill above Medellin. They hoped the deal would bring peace to the country, but instead of stopping crime, Escobar had kept running his drug business from inside the prison. He held meetings. He gave orders. He stayed in charge. And then something happened that changed everything. Inside La Catedral, Escobar became angry with some men in his own group. He believed they were stealing money from him and lying. He brought them inside the prison to talk. They never left. When the government learned that people had been killed inside the prison, they realized they had made a terrible mistake. A prison was supposed to be controlled by the state, not by a prison. Now, they knew Escobar was still acting like a boss, not like an inmate. So the government made a new decision. They would move him to a real prison, one with real guards, real rules, no special treatment. But Escobar had always been a man who planned ahead. He knew the government might break the deal one day. He knew they might try to move him, and he did not want to lose his comfort, his power, or his control. So he prepared. Some guards at La Cathedral were loyal to him. Some were afraid of him. Others had gotten used to the easy life there and did not want trouble. Security was not strict. The prison was built in a way that gave Escobar many advantages. On July 22, 1992, soldiers came to La Cathedral. Their mission was clear: take Pablo Escobar and move him to another prison. But things did not go smoothly. There was confusion. Some guards did not fully cooperate. Communication between soldiers and prison staff was messy. No one wanted to start a fight on a hilltop prison that Escobar still partly controlled. In the middle of this confusion, Escobar made his move. He slipped away. He escaped through a part of the prison that was not watched closely. The fog on the hill made it even easier to disappear. By the time the army understood what had happened, he was already gone. The most powerful criminal in Colombia had escaped from a prison he helped design. The news spread fast. People were shocked, angry, afraid. The government looked weak. The country felt like it had gone backward. Escobar, the man they thought was locked away, was free again. But this time was different. Before La Cathedral, Escobar had lived like a king. He moved openly. He trusted many people. He felt untouchable. Now, he was being hunted. Police, soldiers, and special forces began a huge search. The United States helped with equipment and information. Phone signals were tracked. Safe houses were watched. Friends and family were questioned. Escobar could no longer stay in one place for long. He moved from house to house, hiding in small apartments and buildings. Curtains stayed closed. Lights were kept low. He spoke on the phone carefully, knowing calls could be tracked. For the first time in many years, Escobar felt pressure. He still tried to lead what was left of his cartel. He still gave orders. He still wanted control, but things were falling apart. Some of his partners had grown tired of running. Some were afraid of being arrested. Some joined rival groups. Others were killed in fights between drug organizations. Escobar's time inside La Cathedral had protected him, but it had also separated him from daily control. His empire had cracks now, and those cracks were growing. There was also a new enemy. A group made up of Escobar's rivals and people who had suffered because of him began working together. They wanted him gone. They helped the police with information about where he might be hiding. Escobar was still powerful, but he was no longer safe. He missed his family deeply. He wanted to hear his children's voices. That emotional need made him take risks. He made phone calls to them, not knowing that police were trying to trace those calls. Little by little, the search team got closer. They studied his patterns. They listened for small mistakes. They waited. Then, on December 2, 1993, everything changed. Police traced a phone call to a neighborhood in Medellin. They moved quickly and surrounded the building. Escobar realized what was happening. He tried to escape by running across rooftops. He had done this before. He knew the city well, but this time, there was nowhere left to run. Police officers chased him across the roofs. Shots were fired. When it was over, Pablo Escobar was dead. The man who once controlled a global drug empire had died on a rooftop in the city where he was born. His death ended years of fear, bombings, and bloodshed linked to his organization. But his story did not end there. The prison he built, La Cathedral, became a symbol. It showed the world that prison alone does not always stop crime. If a criminal still has money, loyal followers, and ways to communicate, he can still run a business from behind bars. Because of Escobar, Many countries changed how they run prisons. Security became stricter. Visitors were watched more closely. Phone access was controlled. Guards received more training to prevent corruption. The cathedral itself slowly turned into ruins. Nature grew over the walls. The buildings fell apart. Today, tourists can visit the site and walk through what used to be Escobar's private prison. They see the soccer field. They see the empty rooms. They learn how a prison once became the headquarters of a criminal empire. Escobar's life is not told as a story of success. It is told as a warning. It shows how power built on fear and crime can last for a while, but it always brings pain, loss, and destruction. He once believed he could control everything. The streets, the government, even the prison system. For a time, it seemed like he could, but in the end, he lost his freedom, his empire, and his life. And the world learned an important lesson: prison must be stronger than the prisoner.